Actual savings would be $156.50. So there was some adjustments we made in here. There's still a savings. However, that savings can go away at any point in time if they see a spike in the three-phase used. And apparently that spike is the once in a year use of the fire system as far as testing the 500 gallon per minute pump that kicks in. And if we can keep that from happening by using the generator to operate that pump during the testing, then that spike won't be seen. However, if it can't be, then that may affect that particular amount. But we're going to try to make that happen. Engine 4's repairs were more than $1,000 deductible. The actual bill was $4,518.22. We have made a claim with Primex in reference to this incident.
So what was the cause of the damage?
As far as it was a snowy, slippery road down in.
Oh, by the basin.
No, it's not. It's actually down in off of you go down in off of Crossnet,
Okay.
and down in a small slippery road that was down there. The truck was backing up out of the particular road, and the duals set over into a tree that was leaning over the roadway, and actually crushed the gutter, which is an integral part of the roof, apparently. Originally, the company thought that they could just replace the gutter with like a stick-on type of gutter, and it can't be because it's extruded. When the roof was made, it was made part of that. They actually had to cut it out and re-weld a new section. So when you did that, obviously the roof the paint doesn't like having welding done to it, so it had to be all repainted. So that was that. We do have a $1,000 deductible, which will be applied to that, and will come out of my maintenance side of the budget. The truck was out of service for approximately 2 weeks and is now back in service. While that was out of service, we did notice a loss in the equipment as far as having it, responding to different calls and stuff like that. Losing that particular truck, we lose over half of our water capabilities. The Tuftonboro Fire Rescue Department and Tuftonboro Police Department met with all the representatives from the different camps in town on Friday, April 20th at the training room at Central Station. A roundtable discussion of the different camps' emergency action plans were discussed. Also, what could be expected of our emergency services if some type of emergency happened at the different camps. So that went on for about approximately 2 hours, and I believe it was very useful as far as the meeting was. A lot of different things were brought up, a lot of questions asked, and they're going to come back with some further information for us as far as the department's going.
In that meeting, did you go over camp layouts with these various camps, or is that something you do separately? Because I know that from time to time, they'll add a tents over in this area and that
Yes.
sort of thing. I mean, it seems to me it's important that you want to have a up-to-date layout of
We
where all of it.
had discussed as far as being able to get a map of each camp updated, obviously each year as far as it goes. So yes, anything that is new, anything that has changed as far as those goes. In most cases, the fire department has most of the updated stuff. However, everything changes
Sure.
each year.
And when you get a call out at a camp, let's say there are 20 structures on the camp.
Yes.
Is there some way that they can indicate to you that, yeah, it's in cabin 27, or, I mean, do you have some sort of legend on these layouts that
They do let you know what part of the camp it is on the initial call, and actually the camps are very good about sending people out to the different sections of the road and guiding you in to the different areas. Obviously, as far as something along a active shooter or something, a person that's in the camp that is doing harm to people, that may be a little bit different as far as you're not going to be sending people out into the open to guide you in that particular case, especially if someone's still actively in there. But as far as fires, EMS calls, and some type of emergencies, they've always been really good about guiding us right in as far as emergency services. And yes, the layouts do show you the different parts of the camps and stuff. And a lot of them have a lot of, obviously a lot of different buildings. It takes us, when we do inspections on the fire side, it can take a day to go through some of the camps to get all the inspections completed. We will be doing that for every camp this year as required by the state as far as doing the life safety inspections of the camp. We had been doing that in the past, but in the past we may not have got to every camp every year. But now, required by the state, we have to inspect each one every year.
And have you got those inspections scheduled yet, or is that?
No, we have one scheduled. However, as far as camp-wise, this year obviously has been a little bit different when some of the snow goes away and that they can actually get to some of the buildings in some of the areas, whether it's in Sentinel or Mara Vista. Once they start being able to open up the camps, getting water on and things like that, that's when we'll start being able to go in and get them open. Paramedics get Galvin taught a Stop the Bleed class at Central Station in the training room to 7 nurses from different schools in the Governor Wentworth School District. Those particular nurses will now go back to their schools and teach the staff that particular program. That includes our school at Tuftonboro. The nurse was there to go through that. We also will be working with the local camps to complete this type of training with them that we're interested in being able to complete that also.
Where did the Stop the Bleed program come from?
It actually came from out of the state. When some of these larger incidents happened, they found that a lot of the people could have been saved by tourniquets being put in place.
Wasn't one Sandy Hook?
Yes. Obviously a certain amount of people as far as died from bleeding out from extremity injuries and stuff, which they found that if tourniquets had been put in place, they possibly could have been saved. And it doesn't, as far as we've seen tourniquets put in place for injuries that have happened in different areas, so it's not just a matter of shootings and things like that.
Now, is this Stop the Bleed, is this strictly tourniquets or other technology?
It's basically strictly tourniquets and packing wounds.
Doesn't include blood expanders?
There are some products that are treated that you pack into the wound to stop the bleeding. That is basically what is in the packets that has a life expectancy on it, but it's usually like 5 years. So the clotting material on those bandages that are in those are the only thing that'll go bad in the particular kits that cost anywhere from like $40 or something. One thing that has to
If
be...
you need it, it doesn't matter how much it costs.
No,
does it?
not at all. And if it's out there, I think it's very well, it should be out there as far as it goes. We can save lives. So.
In my other job, I deal with all the nurses in the school district. Every single one of them will compliment Skip Galvin. Would you please tell him thank you?
Very good. On April 9th, we had a final meeting at Central Station to go over final paperwork for FEMA in the state of New Hampshire to get the payment with the workers' forum stellar. The town qualified for $15,512.49 roughly in funding, which has a 75% reimbursement, which should be $11,634.37, which we should be seeing sometime in May. That has to go through a few more hoops in the state side of things, but it's now in the state's hands to delve that out to the town. So we're getting closer.
Does that go into the general fund?
Yes.
Or does it go back to you at a
No,
profit?
it goes to the general fund.
After Concord takes their cut.
I was gonna say, yeah, you gotta skim a little off on the way through.
Yeah, how many hours have you spent on the FEMA?
I have not kept track of that.
Is
Good.
it more than 10?
But I'm afraid that keeping track of it's gonna take more hours to.
There you go.
However, yes, it's far more than 10 hours. I mean, some of the meetings we had were just, basically with that. But
So if you had to do it again, would it be a shorter process for you now that you know some of the
yes, because I would say no.
steps?
Yes, all kidding aside, as far as different things, the process will be shorter. One thing that with this process was it was all computer-based. The new process that they had put in, instead of someone coming out and sitting down with you and going through every thing and every piece of paper, you loaded it all into computer-wise, sent it out, and it went from there. And this was the first time that it was used in New Hampshire, as far as it goes. They had just got this program put in place. However, as far as now, we know that our firefighters, all of their time does not count in anything that they do. So I wouldn't waste the time of going through, sorting out everything that they did, hour upon hour,
Right.
putting that all down on paper because it was all a waste of time. We were gonna get back probably roughly $3,000 to $4,000 for the fire department side of things, but none of that counted. The only way that it would have counted, the only thing that counted was Captain Pike's overtime, where the other firefighters weren't in an overtime status, they would call. That's where, the only way that we would have got money from that is if we had overspent the amount of money that was allotted for the firefighters. And in the beginning of the year, there's no way that that was gonna happen. So, but yes, it probably is worth doing for a certain amount of money if you spend lots of money on the highway side and
We
stuff
we
like
learned
that.
some lessons along the way, right?
Yep.
And,
Most definitely.
and of course, one of the things is that the feds are looking for a pretty detailed procurement policy, and thank you for sending along the information. And I'm in the process of gathering up some other examples, and we'll try and put something together that, what we do today is 100% compliant with New Hampshire law.
Correct.
In terms of purchasing. But if we want to be eligible for federal money, and it may be other federal money besides the FEMA reimbursement, then we have to make sure that what we do is compliant with whatever this chapter of the federal Code of Federal Regulations is. I don't have it in front of me. Anyway, so we got to put together something, and we're working on that, and
Yeah, I don't know if I'm so excited about doing a $250 purchase policy with different things, getting that nitpicky about stuff.
well, it's important to me at least that what we come up with that works for our town,
Right.
as well as satisfying those areas. That 12-page letter we had from FEMA went through, their whole process, very detailed. You understand what where the issues are, and the bureaucrats that are involved in doing that have a process that they use that you have no misunderstanding as to what it takes to comply with the federal regulations. And that's their job, is to make sure that what they do complies with the federal regulations, not whether the regulations make sense or whatever. So it's certainly my intent that as we put something together, that it not handicap us as a town as an ability to operate. And some of those provisions might be a little challenging, so we've got to find a way to satisfy it without, as you say, putting every $250 purchase out to 18 bids.
Right, exactly. And I did, this morning, I did just see the April 23rd email that came in from Bob.
Mhm. And,
So is it-
let's see. And I'm trying to think here. Oh, okay, yeah. One thing I want to go back to, the engine 4 was damaged because of slippery road backing out of, we don't routinely put chains on our equipment, correct?
We have drop-down chains
The automatic
on the
chains?
truck.
Right.
However, they only work in forward.
Ah, okay.
We do have one truck that if it's going to be a bad storm, engine 1, that we have a set of chains for, that we chain that up. You know, if they say that there's going to be a northeast snowstorm coming in, that we normally chain that up.
Mhm.
This particular case, the storm came in, it was a little worse than was projected as far as it goes. There was 2 on the truck. There wasn't a huge turnout as far as people. There was a fire alarm activation. They were going down into Elm Point, which is a very windy,
It's a challenging
small,
area.
challenging road. And they chose to take the engine in that particular case because there was only 2 of them. If they had got down in there with one of the smaller vehicles and that's all they took, they wouldn't have had the firefighting capabilities with them for that particular case. As they were backing out of the road with person backing up, the truck actually sat. They couldn't see the ice, obviously, underneath the snow. The truck actually set over and rubbed against a tree that was above them.
Yep.
And in most cases, you worry about the truck going off the side of the road. But when you have leaning trees, that's something out of the whole case.
So that brings up another thought to me. All these private roads, which is one of the ones that we were on here, this Elm, right? Access for equipment is, if you want to get equipment in there, is pretty important. It's not town roads.
Right.
So how often are we engaged with homeowners in these areas where you might go out and say, you know, this tree needs to come down because we can't get equipment in here well?
We say it, but there's no law that.
No, there isn't.
that
That's,
is
no,
for that.
that's right.
A lot of homeowners will look at, taking out a tree that may be an issue, but in a lot of cases, they obviously don't want a roadway where there's a driveway to get to their property. They like to be somewhat secluded. And that in turn falls, on their house insurance and stuff as far as, if the place is lost, then it's basically gone down as far as it goes. But we try the best we can as far as to put things in place to keep from damaging the bigger equipment and stuff like that. We've been responding out when possible. For example, Carolyn Shores, during this, probably a day after this last incident, so as far as storm-wise, we had a fire alarm activation in there. And in a lot of cases, people didn't plow because they either got caught without plows on or they've taken stuff off for winter time. We ended up having to go all the way into Carolyn Shores for a fire alarm activation. We were able to accomplish that by using the four-wheel drive rescue truck to get us down in there and given the size up. If we had to, we could have committed everything and then get it out later from there. But that particular truck saved us. Going down in, there was a vehicle that was parked in the road, from someone that was checking on someone, which was, you found that ended up being a hindrance, but we worked around that. So you do whatever you can in the different situations to do the best you can to meet what you need to do. But yes, we're definitely looking at not damaging the equipment.
Well, and protecting the equipment's important, but I'm thinking beyond, before you protect the equipment, being able to get in
Yep.
to deal with an issue is the most important thing.
Right.
And in this case, the equipment was damaged coming out, which was unfortunate, but
Right.
not a showstopper.
Right.
But if you were in a situation where you couldn't actually get in there and you had an active fire going on, place is burning, and for lack of cutting a tree down, we can't get a piece of equipment in.
In most cases, people are very, very decent about it. And in the wintertime, it's very tough. Driveways go from, being fairly large to shrinking right in. So
Well, you
that's
also
all
have some
up and
guys
down.
that bring their snow plows on their pickup trucks to help you out. So
Yeah,
you have a good team there.
We do everything we can to access. So, can't have super highways into everywhere.
We should have to have a ladder truck for 10-story buildings.
Right,
Hopefully we don't have anything.
right.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
efforts.
All right, thanks, Chief. Chief Shigori, come on down.
Good morning, Chief.
How are you?
Good.
We're doing okay, Chief.
Huh?
No, we're not, are we?
Sorry,
Whatever.
we're,
I thought we were doing okay, and I looked at the clock.
yeah, that's right.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Let me know when the fun starts. Jesus.
Also have for what it's worth. List of the breakdown of the offenses. So that's for that.
So, this says statistics through the end of February, is that right? Is it?
It's through March, I'm sorry.
All right,
And the date should have been changed. I
Yeah.
did everything but I overwrite my last one.
no, I understand, and that's what I suspected.
So it's to March 31st and it's
Yep,
today's date.
okay.
We had 6 felonies?
The rape,
Right.
the pornography, and hacking, computer evasion. I know those 3 are. I know those are 3 of them.
Okay. There was 2 computer invasions.
Yeah. I know one is. No, it says 1. It's 2 identity thefts.
Oh,
I know those are 3 of them. Got those. Involve 2 different cases.
okay.
And obviously they both have taken a considerable amount of time. Both the pornography, obscene material, and computer hacking has got to do with, it might even, I'm not sure if the identity theft is related, but it's related to some images that were we believe were distributed unlawfully. And then obviously the rape has taken a bunch of time because nowadays everybody's got cell phones. We haven't got to jump through hoops to get. In fact, I just went to grand jury last week about some issues, but not related to that case. But
And traffic stops are up a little bit.
Yeah.
no, the
From
down.
the last-
From last month.
From the
there was-
last
Yeah,
report.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 17 was a banner year, I guess we.
No. It could be higher, but obviously we're spending a lot of time. We've also, one of the simple assaults from, well, actually, it may end up, these numbers may change because one thing that we had is a simple assault, we're actually looking at doing it as 2 charges of simple assault now. So that's why, even though it says 1, we
Yeah.
actually review the case and we say, okay, alternate theories or alternate events may require 2, so this number could go up. But that case has taken a significant amount of time too, trying to track down witnesses and corroborate their stories.
Yeah. Now, when these things happen, the county prosecutor gets involved, right?
Depends on what it is.
Okay.
The rape, yes, because the protocol now with a sexual assault is that you do a minimum interview of the person, just to get the basics, and then what you do is you actually do a CAC, Child Advocacy Center interview, recorded with a team, collaborative team. There's a county attorney started a sexual assault response team kind of concept. And I try to attend those meetings when we can and get the training going. So that's where we're at with that. So the meet is a group meeting, and then they're involved. But with the hacking, computer invasion, we've had to bounce a few things off them, but not too much. Basically.
So we're bringing the charges and we're taking it to court, is that how that works?
Well, we
Not
can't-
anymore, because now we have felonies first. So now it goes, it used to be we would do that up until about a year ago. On April of last year, I think is when felonies first kicked in. We used to bring them to circuit court. I still say district.
Get them arraigned.
Get them arraigned, and then you have to have a probable cause hearing, or they waive the probable cause hearing. Now, with felonies first, you bring everything to Superior Court. There's no circuit court anymore, so they are involved early on any felonies when we charge somebody. If they're not being charged, if it's an ongoing investigation, then we may have to ask some questions. In the case of the sexual assault, they are involved early because we do a CAC.
But you're not trying any felonies.
Actually not. But the only thing with felonies first that kind of is frustrating is if we arrest somebody, we have to have it done by 9 o'clock the next morning and everything in. At least a probable cause, basic, and reports. In some cases, that can be a chore to get everything collected and together. And in a case from last fall, working with Molten Borough, we elected to not arrest the person on that particular charge immediately because we needed to get some more stuff done. So it would have been, so the bad part is or if you hold them. If you don't hold them, there's time frames are longer. But it stops the whole circuit court thing of the probable cause hearing, which most of them are waived anyways when we use them for discovery.
Well,
So
probably when you started your career, superior courts in all the counties weren't permanent, they were seasonal, so.
no, there were, but you could appeal anything. Because when I started, you
Right.
could appeal.
A parking ticket, yeah.
You could appeal a speeding ticket
Yeah.
to Superior Court if you wanted to back then, but,
Then the White decision came down, that was another one.
so that's,
So, we don't have a female officer,
no, we don't.
so how do you handle that? Does Vicky sit in the interviews, or you go to
Oh,
the
no,
jail?
so we go to the CAC and one of the forensic interviewers will do it.
Okay.
I mean, I've done them before. I mean, it's not unheard of. It all depends on how some people relate better to other, sometimes.
Right.
It's like when we interviewed the suspect, it felt that it'd be better if a male interviewed the suspect as opposed to a female in in this case, so we,
There's some flexibility.
you have to have some flexibility, but the CAC interview is a forensic interview, it's a team, and what we have now is, the county attorney's office has a grant for as part of the SART team, the sexual assault response team, has some time from, and this is working with us on this. This could be, it's been a kind of serious case and major. It involves more than just our jurisdiction. They have the state police, retired detective working, I believe she's retired, working part-time. And also part of the SART training is through, I know she's retired anyways, to do some of the teaching and organizing the SART team. It's kind of it's a grant the state's got to kind of work on these and follow the protocols that the Attorney General's have put out on it. So it's the CAC, Child Advocacy Center, so it's being used for more than just children. It's being used now and that's the standard now. And, you know, it looks like a house, it doesn't look like a police station you're going into. The room is, you know, like a little more user-friendly.
Right.
And it's a forensic interviewer, but there's a team that can feed questions in if need be, if something's not covered or anything needs to be done, but it's more, I think it's better for anybody in their stressful situation. It's worked good for kids, and now they're obviously looking at it from other people who've gone through traumatic experiences.
Okay.
Yes.
I wonder if it's a typo. I noticed you have the court information on your memo,
Yep.
but it's not on here.
No, because as I explained before, I typically don't put my hours in on there. It hasn't involved anybody else but me, the court times.
It's still court time in my.
I understand, but, I mean, that would really,
It's still,
yeah, so it's not a typo, it's just
okay,
my hours typically I don't put into that breakout,
okay.
because it could skew that. I mean, you're really supposed, looking at whether or not your patrol officers, your primary patrol officers have enough free time to respond to calls. That's the column that matters to me the most, the one that talks about their patrol time, discretionary time, if you will.
Not to beat the dead horse, but my thought is that you're a micro chief, and that's a very unique position. And there are days when you're just, don't take it this way, but you're patrolling.
Oh, absolutely, I fill in, when there was sick time, I filled in. and
Yes, you do. And that's not a criticism, so
No,
I'd ask you to
you know,
consider that.
I've considered about both ways, but I kind of look at, to me, the most important column on there, to me, is whether or not there's discretionary time, because that's usually the key that people look at, is whether or not you should start looking as to, you need to whether add people or not add people.
And isn't that figure traditionally about 35%?
35% is what they're talking about, yeah. So,
Okay.
Are we gonna do hopefully we're not doing parking today, are we doing parking today?
I have no questions on parking.
Well,
But it's up to you, Mr. Chairman.
I figured time-wise, we wouldn't be doing it today, but
no, but
I did number the lines, so when we got into a
Like that.
conversation,
A little
Because it was-
pagination, a little line.
yeah,